Rise up Bahamas and let your voices blaze.
Bahamas, your Save the Bays team is live on air once a week to give you your environmental update on your country, our beautiful Bahama land. Join us on Voice of the Bays radio show each Wednesday on Love 97 from 5 to 6 p.m. to hear the latest news on our 700 islands in the sun. Call in and let your voice be heard during the show. Calling from Nassau, dial 326-8255. Calling in from Freeport, use 351-6175. You can also listen to the show streaming online.
Let's save the Bays.
The content of Voice of the Bays radio show is the property of Save the Bays, Coalition to Protect Clifton Bay, and is intended for general information purposes only. The views expressed by the show hosts or their guests are their own, and not that of Love 97. To learn more about Save the Bays, please visit their website at www.savethebays.bs or find them on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or YouTube. Our thanks, Bahamas, for your support.
Rise up Bahamas, let your voices blaze. Stand up Bahamas, come on, let's save the Bays. Clifton Bay, save it. Breakers Bay, save it. Liberty Bay, save it. Let's save the Bays. Rise up Bahamas, let your voices blaze. Stand up Bahamas, come on, let's save the Bays. God gave us this land, and this land we must save. Stand up Bahamas, come on, let's save the Bays. Our coalition's forming to stand up for what's right, to protect our Bahamas, and we're prepared to fight, protecting our waters, protecting our land.
Good afternoon, Bahama land. Good afternoon, particularly Grand Bahama. You're listening to the Voice of the Bays. The environment speaks. And the environment in Grand Bahama, as well as in Nassau, has been giving us a lot of information recently with respect to how our magnificent Mother Earth, her bosom, her belly, her womb, have been treated. We dump upon her. We cast all sorts of debris upon her belly and upon her bosom. And it is despicable. It is reprehensible. It is a nasty. Remember your mother from whom you've come. You've come out of the womb of your mother. You've laid upon her belly and you've nursed at her breast. Same thing with Mother Earth. 99.9999% of what we are physically has come from Mother Earth. So why can't we treat her better? And that's why Save the Bays is established to bring awareness, consciousness, attention critically to how we are treating what God has so graciously gifted us. Given us this magnificent planet, giving us this beautiful nation, giving us all of the land and the sea, and all of the marine life and all of the terrestrial life thereupon. And how do we treat it? We treat it like we cast it into a dump. Oh my God, Lord, forgive us. Forgive us for not recognizing the magnificence, the beauty of this archipelagic nation, the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. Out there in outer space, the astronauts, as they circle the globe over and over again, and they look down upon planet Earth, Mother Earth, Gaia, which has life and consciousness, and they said, well, let's establish the most beautiful spot on this planet. The only planet we know where there is life. Of course, there are thousands and probably millions of other planets, and there are probably beings living on them. But we only know the Earth. It'd probably be taking us another 1,000 years before we could find another planet to which we can travel. And when the astronauts circled his globe over and over again, and they said, there it is. The archipelagic nation of the Bahamas, we declare as being the most beautiful spot on planet Earth. How do we treat it? How do we treat its waters? How do we treat its coastal areas? How do we treat the streets? How do we treat the roads? How do we treat the pine barrens? How do we treat the coastal area? How do we treat the mangroves? And we have in our studio this afternoon people who are consciously aware of how we should care for our planet Earth. We have Linda Cooper from West End, the West End Eco Camp, which has been fighting desperately to maintain some semblance of beauty, particularly, well, before, but particularly in different aspects after Hurricane Matthew. Good afternoon, Linda.
Good afternoon, and thank you for having me today again, Joe.
It is a joy to have you, and we appreciate the awareness that you have, the concern that you have for this beautiful planet and that beautiful little spot on the planet, West End. And then we have Ricardo Major, and Ricardo is a principal, just like I used to be. And they all still call me Mr. Darville. They call me Mr. Principal. Ricardo, pleasant good afternoon, and welcome to the show.
Good afternoon, and thank you for having me here on this program. And I'm just excited about what's happening with planet Earth.
Oh, yeah. So much is happening. You know, I go crazy because I love it so much. I can't wake up in the morning to see the sunrise. I wish sometimes it would rise even a little earlier, so I can see the beauty and the glory of what God has given us. And so we are here because we had an incredible activity going on in West End, and then we had another one going on simultaneously in Coral Gardens. The one in West End, of course, Linda Cooper, Keith Cooper, and For Ocean, the organization out of Florida. They were here to assist us in cleaning up a part of West End, particularly the coastal area. And Ricardo, you and your group, you concentrated on Coral Gardens. Let's begin with you. Tell us about your experience there, what you found, how enthusiastic were your helpers, and what lessons did they learn from that experience?
Well, I am really excited because this project started off out of a program that I did with the Pan American Development Foundation, referred to as their Resistance and Prevention Program. And I would have done a program with them, and they have a theory that they've been presenting, which is called a broken window theory, that has a correlation between young people and the way they conduct themselves based on the environment that they would have come out of. They try to put some correlation there. And out of that, they have afforded us persons that would have done this program with them to present an action plan for our community to better our communities. And that was something that I would have taken the challenge on, to write an action plan for development and the betterment of Coral Gardens. And we were really excited because after presenting that program, which really was able to show how we can reduce the crime, we can make it a better place, environment for our young people, for our families to live in, they would have come on board and been able to sponsor some $4,600 to get that project done. And it was indeed a massive project this weekend. I can kind of give you some things that would have happened in there, what we thought to do, or in my action plan, I thought to do it in a 3-phase action plan, and that was to do a community walkabout and an awareness of the community, because the idea was to get the community involved rather than having people come into our communities and clean up. So we would have partnered with the urban, well, as a matter of fact, this entire project was partnered with the Keep Grand Bahama Clean Committee, and of course, you know, on that committee there are a number of agencies represented, and but our first part of our cleanup involved the community policing, where we involved them, social services, to walk up through the community to make to find out whether there are needs in our community, kind of bring us together. Because following that walkabout, the Friday afternoon, we had an immediate town meeting that, again, we were able to hear some concerns from the residents. So that was very successful. The strategies that were used, we'd like to share those, because I think involving your community, getting the word out there. I was able to put speakers on the back of a truck and just drive through the community, really just telling them about, listen, we want you to come out to this. So I kind of motivated them to clean up the community. So this, when people saw me out there, I was a one-man solo band riding around my truck doing that. Some people thought I was crazy at the beginning, but when it all came together, I tell you, I was excited because indeed, the residents turned out to the town meeting, and then on this Saturday we started our cleanup at 8 a.m. We want to say hats off to sanitation services. They would have given us a budget or a proposal to clean the property, and I went back to them saying that if there's anything that you can do, and it was actually slashed 50% to be able to do that. And we would have carted out, I think I would have counted well over 20 loads of grab truck loads of garbage out of Coral Gardens just on the Saturday alone. So Mr. Luke Carroll, and his team, I want to say hats off to them, because the men worked from 8 a.m. and they were there well into the afternoon carting out loads of garbage. And then the residents that came out bagging garbage, bagging things to put in. Again, I want to say I thought that I thought I was the mayor of Coral Gardens then. I felt so good, but the residents turned out. And I wish persons can see some of the pictures that were there, because I'm just talking about residents now. We have a resident in there that's in a wheelchair, and he was so motivated, he had somebody push him in a wheelchair with his bag, and we have pictures of that. We have pictures of that. He had someone push him, and he has his bag, he's handicapped, picking up. So the residents of Coral Gardens, and this is only the beginning, because when we start to talk about what we can do afterwards, but we went through that. The pickup. We want to say hats off to the Defense Force Rangers, because through Coral Gardens on Saturday morning, I felt so proud, because I'm like, nobody else is any other community. The Defense Force Rangers turned out in full force, and to see young people giving back to other communities that they don't live in and coming into work. We had the GGYA, we had other police officers coming in. So through Coral Gardens on Saturday morning, I would have had, in volunteers alone, we had close to 50 people working the grounds in Coral Gardens, and everybody was in their spot doing their cleanup. So I tell you, we were really excited about that.
Ricardo, I sitting here, you're giving me goosebumps, because I see this as a model of what every community could do, every street, every avenue, every little nook and corner in Freeport, Grand Bahama, I should say, not Freeport, Grand Bahama. Grand Bahama could do. So we're going to come back to you to see what you have in terms of recommendations as to how other communities can piggyback upon that, so that we can finally, possibly, get this island clean. We could have that pristine belly and bosom of Mother Earth pristine, as the good God has given it to us. We're going to take Linda now. Linda, give us a rundown on what took place in West End, in the combination of the groups there. We had, of course, you could tell us what happened there.
Well, I want to praise God, first of all, for the wonderful weather. We had 81 degrees. It was partly sunny. It was a beautiful weather. So I want to thank God for that. I want to thank God for all the participants, all of the contributors, volunteers. We had lots of wonderful environmental stewardship leaders impacting West End that came from 4 Oceans, Save the Bays, and the West End Eco Fishing Camp directors and volunteers. I really like to give Civil Aviation and Rashima a pat on the back for getting that drone in through Civil Aviation. And that drone was, we didn't let that spoil our sunshine, because we got another drone and we actually did aerial photography of the actual cleanup. So we have everything. We had over 100 volunteers that came together, partnered together for this initiative in our capital, West End, Grand Bahama. T-shirts from oceans.org were given out, and recyclable plastic 4 Oceans bracelets, as well as their hemp. They had their little hemp bags to go collect, and gloves, and it was a wonderful campaign. We had all of the litter taken It was all, everything was collected. We did not leave it in West End proper. What I liked it was that we actually loaded everything up. And we had a guy, Telfort, who actually staged it and took it to the Pine Ridge landfill, had it weighed in first thing on Monday morning, and we weighed in at our net weight was 1,160 pounds, Joe.
So that superseded actually what the goal was. The goal was 1,000 pounds. Actually, after we tread through the water, through the mangroves, I thought we probably had about 2,000 pounds. I guess we added our fatigue and tiredness with that. I just want to add in here because it was such a profound experience seeing our young people subjecting themselves to something that they've never done before. And I'm very happy that our group, the Save the Bays group, and our YEAs, they were given the mangroves because, they have had so many instructional sessions about the importance of mangroves. And I want to congratulate them publicly, and I hope some of them are listening, because they did not hesitate to wade into the water up to their necks in trying to reach the plastic that was all about like flags in all of the mangroves. And I was so kind of in awe at them that they did not hesitate. Even the girls. In fact, one of the girls, Cassandra Gavi, she was absolutely outstanding. She was, in fact, I followed her path because she didn't hesitate to go into the water up to her neck, reaching up to grab the plastic. And then, the whole lesson that took place within and among the mangroves, because there were hundreds of the pufferfish in there, and they already known about the pufferfish because we saw one of the gentlemen of West End fishing for them. And I said, what are you going to do with them? And he said, I'm going to eat them. I said, but they're poison. He said, well, I eat them all the time and I'm still living. So, and then we had a lesson about what dwells among the mangroves. The pufferfish, the mangroves, the gray snappers, grunts, and many other species that were there. And one of the things that was really outstanding was to see the solidity, the firmness of that seabed on which the mangroves grew. And that, again, gave them the practical example of how mangroves formed islands. And that's the importance for them. That's why we have to love them and cherish what they do. And the good God in their wisdom gave them to us for a purpose, because they are there to protect our island. And one of the guys who was, in fact, probably 5 feet above me, up in the mangroves, reaching for the pieces of plastic, he lay back at one point on the mangroves. And he said, Uncle Joe, he said, this is so beautiful in here. I feel so much at peace. And I said, that's exactly what the Creator designed, for us to feel at peace with this magnificent creation that has been given to us, and we have no right to destroy it. And so they were, the lessons that they learned, and that's why, again, I appreciate the fact that our group was given the mangroves to clean up, and they did a spectacular job. And I was intent that we weren't going to leave there until we had every little piece of plastic out of those mangroves, whether on the bottom, the seabed, or up in the mangroves.
Yes, well, the red mangrove system, the red mangroves are a very important and essential part of our ecosystem in West End, and that borders along Bayshore Road. As you know, that they are very influential. Those are breeding sites for the small fish run in there to get away from the big guys, and they also provide a lot of protection in the storms and in the flooding and during the surge, water surge in Hurricane Matthew. As you can see, there was a lot of entrapments, embodiments in the mangroves, and even in the prop root system. Removing a lot of those plastic bags. I know that was very tedious work, and I have very good shots of you too, Joe. removing and cutting by razor blade and other scissors, actually cutting plastic bags out of prop roots. And it's so sad to see that the amount of plastic that was wrapped around the prop roots, but to see it in the aftermath, after it was all done, when Save the Bays actually got in there, and I mean, they really cleaned that whole entire area. Now, we're in our 9th year now of teaching the children in West End to be better environmental stewards of their environment. We do need more support from the parents to come along with them, to come and unite and come out to some of these events when we're doing the community cleanups, because as much as I saw Save the Bays youth, and as much as I saw the West End Eco Fishing Camp and the West End Primary School children with the principal, I did not see any support from any parents, and you know, that's kind of, to me,
well,
that's
let me address
sad.
let me address that.
Address
a little
that
bit.
for me.
Because that, you know, I give you the leeway for me here. It was very distressing, because if we're going to teach our children how to care for this environment, they have to have the example of the parents. You know, we teach them all that we can in our environmental educational program. You do in the West End camp, etc., and they may do in the primary school in West End. And I was so elated to see all of those young children out there, but the adults were absent. They were absent. Shame on them. And I'm not going to hesitate. Shame on the parents who did not come out there to set an example like they did in Coral Gardens. They were there as a community. I don't know yet why West End, that you got all of the people rushing in there to clean that area, and what we had, about 4 adults from the West End area who came out to give any assistance. That is despicable. It's horrible. Is indicative of the indifference that is in this country. And if our parents and adults are not going to set the example like they did in Coral Gardens, then West End is going to be polluted again. You're going to have the bags all over the place. I made it a point, Linda, that we were not going to leave. Rashima was saying, come, let's go. We only got 10 more minutes. I said, for God's sake, I need to finish this. And like you said, the plastic was so wrapped around the prop roots of the mangroves that you had to get a knife, a box cutter, and to carefully cut the plastic without cutting the actual root to get the plastic that was wound around. Now, some people may say, and some people did or give the opinion, that most of these plastic bags came from the ocean when it flowed in. That's not the case. Because if you look at the direction of the wind and the height of the bags, they came from the land. They came from the land. Those were bags that were left around, flying around. Now, albeit that maybe a lot of them were in the homes that were destroyed. So you give people the benefit of the doubt. But for God's sake, West End people, you know, get it together. Give the example to these young people. I mean, you know, look at the pictures that were taken by 4Ocean. I'm sure you've seen them with your lovely children there. Wouldn't it have been wonderful if you were there holding their hands? Why does Joe Darville or anybody else have to come to West End to clean up the garbage that you've allowed to accumulate to be persistent there from Matthew until now? It's a disgrace, it's a shame, and I do not forgive you for that. I mean, I don't think you've sinned, so I'm not going to give you any absolution. But the fact is that, come on, set a good example. You know, we need it.
Well, I'd like I'd like to springboard on that, because I tell you that's one of the objectives that I sought to achieve, because for sustainability of keeping Coral Gardens clean, to go in there and to bring strangers in there to clean up, tomorrow it's going to be back to square one. Exactly. And what I thought to do was to get you out there sweating, working hard, and cleaning up a place. You'll be less likely to throw trash there again. So I thought that the strategy of really doing the public service announcement via PA system on a truck, encouraging residents to really show up and show out, get out there. And like I said, I was so proud that happened on Friday and the Saturday, to have the residents turn out, and that's only the beginning.
Well, that's only the beginning, and I think you got those two opposing forces here. We're in West End. Hardly any adults showed up, and I don't know why. If they figured, well, they didn't want to get their hands dirty. Well, why does Joe Darville and Jensen Farkas and Regina Ingram and all of my facilitators plunge into the water, climb the mangroves, and weave through those prop roots to get all that plastic out? Because you know something? When that plastic is gone, all of those birds, because birds don't like fluffing around, plastic fluffing around. And you notice that very few birds have come back into those sanctuaries. So we're hoping now that with all the plastic taken out, they'll feel comfortable in their previous home. All of those, what used to be the pelicans.
A lot of the herons.
The herons and all of those that they live there, they feed there because there's all those fish in there, so they survive. And so the next time I go to West End, I know I'm going to see more of those our feathered friends sitting there in their glory as we go by. We're going to take a short break, but you're listening to the Voice of the Bays, The Environment Speaks, and we're speaking forcefully on behalf of Mother Earth this afternoon. If you want to chime in and call, here in Freeport, you could call us at 351-6176. Out of Nassau, 322-5683. That's the right number? Yeah? 322-5683. Out of Nassau, Freeport, 351-6176. If you even want to call and congratulate all of the young people who showed up, 100.
100 from West
End. Oh, my God, they look beautiful in that blue. And they were treated royally. You know, they were respected, every single one. So we're going to take a short break and be right back.
Rise up, Bahamas, and let your voices blaze.
Bahamas, your Save the Bays team is live on air once a week to give you your environmental update on your country, our beautiful Bahama land. Join us on Voice of the Bays radio show each Wednesday on Love 97 from 5 to 6 p.m. to hear the latest news on our 700 islands in the sun. Call in and let your voice be heard during the show. Calling from Nassau, dial 326-8255. Calling in from Freeport, use 351-6175. You can also listen to the show streaming online.
PLP say that they're sorry, but I don't believe them.
Color Red is on the move. Come join FNM leader and the nation's next prime minister, Dr. Hubert Minnis, and the party's battle-ready North New Providence Change Team this Thursday, April 6th at 7 p.m. Christie Park. And here by the PLP is sorry. It's the people's time.
PLP them say that they're sorry.
Change is here. Be there.
We're neighbors. NUA Insurance now serves the Carmichael community with our newest service center on Carmichael Road, located just east of Bahamas Faith Ministries. Let us give you a hand choosing the coverage you need from our complete line of home, auto, and business policies. With locations in Collins Avenue, Harbor Bay, Carmichael Road, as well as Georgetown, Exuma, NUA Insurance is the most convenient choice for all your insurance needs. Call us today, 302-9100, for friendly professional advice. NUA Insurance, the hands-on insurance agency.
Crimson Bay, 7. Breakers Bay, 7. Liberty Bay, 7. Listen to bass. Rise up, Bahamas, and let your voices blaze.
Rise up, Bahamas, let your voice be heard. Let your hands be put to the task of cleaning the belly and the bosom and the breast of Mother Earth. I cannot stress that more. Do you trample upon your mother? Do you spit upon her? Do you pee upon her? Do you cast all your garbage upon her? Man, I didn't say the bad word in that regard. So, you know, let's begin to treat Mother Earth. Now, during the break, Ricardo, who spearheaded with his team the cleanup of Coral Gardens on Saturday past, he was showing us some pictures, and I wish we could see them. But just imagine, he's showing before and after, and it looks like a totally different environment. And then he was able to solicit the people in there. And this is, Ricardo, I've always had trouble cleaning up other people's garbage. And the only reason I do it, because I respect Mother Earth sufficient that I could overcome the negligence and the dirtiness of people and go and clean her belly, her bosom, and her breast. And that's the only reason that's how I justify doing it. because I don't think anyone should be responsible to clean up other people's garbage. But because of the respect that we have for her, for Mother Earth, we do it. And tell us a little bit more about before and after, and what are your plans going forward with this fantastic project. 2 projects last Saturday, one in the west and one in the central part of Grand Bahama. And we're going to be heading out east sometime soon,
yes.
too. But tell us more.
Well, again, thank you again for having us back again. But we're just all excited about what's happening there in Coral Gardens, because I spoke earlier about what we did as a cleanup, getting community involvement. I think that was paramount. It was to be able to get them out there cleaning up, picking up, asking for garbage bags, asking to use chainsaws to cut down debris to get Coral Gardens cleaned up. Some of the things moving ahead, that we're excited about is we have residents in there. There's one particular resident who there's already been a commitment to provide all the materials to paint that apartment building for her. We've been cutting down debris from abandoned buildings to make it safer for our children, so that undesirables won't get in there, to lessen the crime in the area. So we've been cutting that down. We have plans of being able to beautify the entire East Sunrise Highway boundary, because if you know Coral Gardens is right on that brand new roundabout there on East Sunrise Highway. And we have plans of beautifying all of that debris between there, and I think it would go up as far as in the front of Jiffy Cleaners, cut down all of that and plant some trees there so that you can see through. As a matter of fact, when I hear what Coral Gardens was like, the place had pools and was not, and I'm sure we can bring it back to that, so that our children can begin to appreciate living in a place that's centrally located. You can get a bus from there. We can get to Port Lucaya. I think Coral Gardens is indeed the spot that we can use as the model to do this. We're hoping that at our post meeting, it wouldn't be a wrap up, but just a wrap up to the cleanup, we are able to distribute throughout the community. We're waiting on confirmation from some garbage bins from Farmer Chem. We've written in already for those garbage bins to put in Coral Gardens, just to places so we make sure we have enough drums to put debris in. So we're waiting when we do our post meeting to be able to get those drums to put in, and then also assist residents. We are hoping also to start a neighborhood watch group, or just a know your neighbor, where we were able to get there, begin to do things on a regular basis. So this community, I'm going to tell you, we are on the move, and the persons that I have in there that have volunteered to partner with me or with us, because we live in there, are excited about doing things that's going to cause some of these other communities to follow suit. So we want to be the example.
This is wonderful, and I look forward to see the transformation of that whole area, because Coral Gardens has gone through an evolution which is absolutely amazing. I remember years ago when I was still involved in drug education, drug counseling, and all of that. That was one area that was drug infested. I mean, that's where some of the biggest drug dealers did all of their nefarious activity. And I remember going in there on one occasion to look for a particular child whose mother had called me at 2 o'clock in the morning to go in there to look for the child and encourage him to come back home. But when I went in there, well, lo and behold, a gun was put to my head and told me, get out of there before I get my head blown off. Yes. And so Coral Gardens, I'm glad that someone like you are in there encouraging the parents to put, and let's make this symbolic for all of the communities. Can you imagine that we can drive down, we don't see Kentucky Fried Chicken, we don't see Burger King, we don't see any of those, we don't see beer bottles, we don't see signs, we don't see collect anything on the streets. You have a fire. There was a fire somewhere recently, and driving along there I counted, by just driving slowly, in probably 300 feet, I counted 97 beer bottles on the side of the road. I mean, my God, come on. Keep the beer bottles in your car, in your truck, until you get home, and dispose of them properly. This is your island. And you know something? I think why our Bahamians are like this, Nassau is horrible.
Yes,
if you think Grand Bahama is bad, it is despicable. And the dump is indicative of what Nassau is like in many areas where the people dwell and live.
Well,
And
go ahead. I'd like to chime in because, what's driving my passion is somebody had the nerve to say to me, Coral Gardens was a ghetto. I'm like, I don't live in a ghetto, and we are gonna prove. And I know when I got on the mic and we were announcing it, I was saying this is what people. Somebody have said, but if we can prove them wrong that we don't live in a ghetto, when they walk through, I'd love living in this kind of.
How long you been living there?
I've been living in Coral Gardens for 28 years. 28 years I've been in Coral Gardens.
Well, you remember there was a time when you had some nefarious
it
was. It never got to the ghetto-ish type environment. But one thing I want to get on before I forget this, and this is law enforcement. Why can't the Grand Bahama Police Department designate a number of police officers who are going to ride these streets on a daily basis at nighttime, and even if they're not going to arrest people and charge them for littering, give them a warning, a significant warning. Something with all of the electronic things that you have today with the licensing of vehicles, you could always make a note of what vehicle from which these things are being deposited along the side of the road. And listen, Linda and Ricardo, we're not going to make headway sufficiently until the law enforcement agencies are doing what they're supposed to do. There's some serious penalties for littering. And I have never heard in my whole life even one person being charged with littering. And I've driven behind police cars, behind which is a car, and they dump stuff out or in front of the car, and nothing is done.
Also signage. I put this notice out that says, "No dumping. Violators will be prosecuted." This was a sign that I found.
When will they be prosecuted? 10 years?
I stood in there. This was under some brush, laying down. This probably has been, because that's the first time I've seen, and this sign is right on my street. This was under the brush somewhere, laying down, and pulling out trash.
Something? There's a sign like that on back of our office on Jasmine Corporate Center. Mm-hmm. There's a street in back there that if you go into the St. George's schools, that road back there, there's the same sign there. You know what the buggers did? They came and dumped a whole load of garbage right on the sign. The sign is still standing right plump in the middle. And then someone came back later and lit it afire. And so it's partly burnt, but it's a mass, almost like a truckload of stuff sitting there. I mean, that's disrespectful. Disrespectful. Yes. If you're dumping, if you're throwing stuff out of your vehicle, and you're doing that, you are a nasty. Mm-hmm. You are nasty, because it is nasty to do that. Mm-hmm. Save it. Take a bag. I wish the police, in fact, at one point in time, the police were on the roundabout, and they were actually giving out bags in which people could put their debris instead of tossing out on the road. We want to see more of that. Law enforcement at this point is necessary. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, we're not going to get a handle on it, because you might deal with it in the communities like West End or Coral Gardens, but along the streets, along the thoroughfares, unless the law enforcement has a definitive plan to do with it, to call people to answer for it, people are so used to it, you got to give them a break. But warn them. Mm-hmm. Take the car number. In fact, there was a time when I think Simon Lewis, he used to drive around when he worked at the Freeport News. And if some vehicle parked in a handicap place, he would take the sign, post in the paper. I think we should go around with cameras and take a picture of a vehicle tossing garbage. And sometimes they throw a big bag out.
Well, I'd like to chime in because I'm an avid cyclist. I don't know if you've seen, but I've been cycling recently, and this is such a beautiful island to cycle
Oh,
around.
God, no.
It is. But you'll drive down Grand Bahama Highway where they have the verges cleaned. I mean, and somebody will take an entire bag. You can tell that this bag was in your kitchen with all the things, and you
That's
just
right. Yes,
dump it
just
up,
dump it
right
out.
on the side of the road. You're doing a nice bike ride, and this is what you're seeing in places like that. You're driving secluded areas where you think, and like I said, all the sanitation services, they're cleaning the roads, they're keeping it clean, and we just drive and just dump the trash.
Yeah, I
there.
want to give the numbers here again because my good what they call operator in the back there gave me the wrong number. I think I'm going to charge him for that. The number out of Nassau is 326-8255. All right, Avery? I still love you though. 326-8255. So out of Nassau, if you want to give us a call, speak your piece on this program, which is very important. Much more important than all these silly season political things, because they're going to drop a lot of garbage around. You go in Nassau or in Freeport, and after those events, look what happens. Fortunately, we have a great sanitation services that does a phenomenal job, but they cannot be all over the place. Mm-hmm. And so we need our citizenry to take responsibility, so that if, in fact, I shame one place that was on what's the road going out by that Club 69 or whatever it is?
Midshipman, yes.
Because they must have shots or something in those little paper cups and stuff. But every night after they had something there, that whole area was nothing but cups all over the place. So I shamed them once on radio on this same program. And then I didn't see it anymore, and I hope it's not anymore, because that's horrible.
Oh, yeah.
They should tell the clientele, drop the cup, or have as they exit the club, have something there in which they can drop those paper cups. Linda?
Yeah, and people, listen, now, your appliances do not belong in the ocean. I mean, come on now. After Hurricane Matthew, there was a lot of bulk waste. We don't need clothes dryers thrown over the seawall because you don't know what to do with it. There is a bulk waste department, and Sanitation Services runs that. You need to speak with your MP or, call us up at the West End Eco Fishing Camp. We're right in West End. Call the police to find out the proper disposal. The proper disposal of the washer machines is not over the seawall or any other bulk type items. I shouldn't find hulls, engines, different kinds of engine parts, vehicle parts, alternators, starters. I shouldn't find that over the seawall. If your car broke down on the side of the road, I don't need to find your greasy monkey stuff and parts all inside the sea. That's where the fish are trying to populate, and you guys, you really, really got to get a handle on this, because, we should know that whatever affects one directly affects all of us indirectly. You can never be what you ought to be until you are what you ought to be. I can never be what I ought to be myself until you are what you ought to be. And you ought not to be doing these things, just littering, and it's uncompromising.
Well,
we shouldn't,
Linda, when we first started to do the cleanup in the mangroves, there was this washing machine, and then I called 2 or 3 of our YEA people. I said, "Come," and then fortunately, one of the gentlemen from Four Ocean, he said, "Oh no. We can't handle bulk stuff like that." But my God, I saw that washing machine there over the wall in the eyesight of all of the residents in West End ever since Matthew. Now, I give you the benefit of the doubt that maybe it was washed out of somebody's home. But couldn't a couple guys have gone over that short wall and lifted that thing back onto the main road that it could be picked up, rather than leaving it there as an eyesore right there up against those mangroves? And actually, it's been sitting there long enough until the mangrove, the prop roots were actually bent as a result of that washing machine.
Absolutely. And same thing with this box springs. You know, you got, come on now, king and queen size box springs. Do you know how much of an eyesore that is to have to be driving down Bayshore Road on Sunday night, going to take your lover out for conch salad? And oh my God, you got this bed standing upright facing you from the ocean side, and you're wondering, okay, are they trying to tell me I need to go to sleep? Or, you know, what is this message sending? I mean, these beds are rising up out of the ocean. They haven't removed them yet. I can show you right next door to me where there's two of them, and not to count the numerous of beds, box springs, all up and down Bayshore Road. It's disgusting.
Well, maybe they were thrown there by Matthew, but that doesn't justify them being there. What is it? Matthew was in what month? October?
That was October 6th.
November, December, January, February, March, April. 6 months. And all of this stuff is there.
Still there.
What's wrong with those people in West End that they can't clean up their community? You know, I feel. But listen, I want to give an example because I grew up as a little boy. I came from Long Island when I was 14. Took me 7 days on the sailboat. That's another story. But back in those days, we used to actually sweep the dirt. We used to sweep the dirt. We had those straw things from the Palmetto thing. We put them all together, and if the dirt was dirty with other stuff, we would sweep it. I saw the same thing in recent times in Sweetings Key, that they still do it, that the rocks are clean, and any debris, anything that flies there, they take it and they sweep it. And Nassau used to be that clean. As I grew up a boy in Nassau after age 14, Nassau used to be clean.
Absolutely.
But now it's filthy. It is nasty. It is despicable. I mean, I took my wife was down recently doing a dog show, and she remembers because, you know, we left Nassau to come to Grand Bahama in 1977. Even back then, Bay Street and the off streets of Bay Street were just, just pristine, clean. And now you go right off Bay Street, and it's filthy. It is awful. She said, Joe, why is all this allowed to happen? Why are we, is it because we don't have ownership? Talk to me a little bit, Ricardo. If anyone still wants to call in Freeport, 351-6176, in out of Nassau, 326-8255. Tell me about ownership of your areas where you live.
Well, I tell you, that's again, even just with the cleanup, we wanted persons that live there, that residents that live in the community, to feel a part that we own coral gardens. We reside there, so we are the ones to clean it up. We are the ones to take care of this environment, and again, not to have people come in. So that was really one of the thrusts, the appeals that have been made to doing that. But more than that, I have seen residents that own the apartment buildings have come out. They have asked for tools to be able to clean up because they want to try, and that's my thing, trying to get them to understand a sense of ownership. But before I go, I want to also just send a shout out to the consultant for the Pan American Development Foundation, Ms. Charo Walker. She is a consultant, and she has been here this last week representing the foundation to come and take care of all of the invoices that were budgeted for this in the approval. And I want to say thanks to her because she came in to do also a survey. I was very impressed with being able to collect as many surveys about the project, so that when they get back and they analyze the data to see whether this was worth the while to have invested this money in Grand Bahama, and I'm sure other projects are going on in the Bahamas. I also want to say hats off and a thank you to ASP Henry Roll, who really assisted in mobiling the police department. Well, I would have sent my letter into Mr. Seymour, and once that approval was given, he was then given the okay to then mobilize persons. So I want to say those two persons that spearheaded that, and then also Ms. Nakira Wilshcombe, who also mobiled the Keep Grand Bahama Clean Committee, all those persons that work on that. So all of those agencies came together to make this a success, and then are going to continue to work along with us so that we can truly have ownership in Coral Gardens of what we see when we start our neighbor crime watch, or we've gotten tips on what we can do just with the mobile phone. You have people that are driving through. If they look like they're up to no good, just snap a picture and send it around. We need to be able to see that, to see, somebody will see whether there's somebody coming in there, because again, we want to have a safe and a clean environment for our families, for our friends, for our children. And if you know, that community has its own community park, and a lot of people come there. So we want to be able to notice when persons come on the park. If people are coming there and not using our park properly, we want persons taking pictures and sending it out to persons in the group or the police, that we can do a follow-up to find out why is there vandalism or things like that. So we're really excited about moving ahead.
This is absolutely incredibly important, and I congratulate you and your team. This is something that I think is going to redound for a lot of transformation that needs to take place. A thought just came to mind, and always, and I'm not accusing the present administration, the PLP, because both FNM and the PLP do this right before election time. They like to give out a lot of jobs. So why not give out jobs to clean the country in Nassau and Freeport and even the Family Islands? If you have money in a silly season to give people jobs, in fact, I have to say this, because I was sitting in what do you call it, Dunkin' Donuts last week, and there was a gentleman there apparently who was sent a whole contingent of young men to work. And he was telling me and the other people, he said, I don't know what to do with them. They got no skills. They come there, they sit around. I don't know what to put them to do. But now, with all of this stuff that needs to be cleaned up in the country, take 1,000 of the young people and pay them the minimum wage for the next month or so during the silly season. Make them responsible to call on the line. Okay, we're going to take a call, but I want the government to do that, please, in every island, Grand Bahama too. Come on, my cousin Michael Darville. A call. Okay, go ahead. Hello, you're on the line. You're on Voice of the Bays.
Hello.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, Mr. Darville, how you doing, man? How you doing?
I'm great. Who is calling?
I'm calling. This is Ken Lang from Freeport.
Okay, Ken. Good to hear you.
Bringing back some memories, and what you're saying is, what the crew is saying there is so true. But bringing back some memories, I remember in Nassau used to be really clean.
Yeah.
I remember there was a gentleman. I guess I would assume he was from perhaps Long Island, and he used to take care of Bay Street. I don't know if you remember this gentleman.
I remember him very well indeed.
A great type outfit. I think he used to work for the Ministry of,
Oh my
Ministry
God!
Health,
What's his name?
Bay Street was his area.
Yeah.
And this gentleman used to have his little buggy, and he had on a bow tie and a cap or hat or whatever. But he took pride in cleaning Bay Street. Bay Street was his area.
I wish someone would call with his name, because I know him so well.
That people in those days took pride in cleaning. I can't remember his name, but I don't know if you know who I'm talking about.
Oh, I know exactly who you're talking about, and I remember encountering him many days on, like, with the bow tie, and he had this beautiful hat on, and Bay Street, you couldn't find one scrap of dirt or paper or anything around Bay Street, and not just Bay Street, but all the off streets from Bay Street. If someone can remember his name, please let us know.
You don't seem to get these kind of people no more, but it just brought back some memory. This gentleman, he took pride, and like I say, he used to wear a bow tie.
Yeah, exactly.
So it doesn't mean that because you work for sanitation service mean that you have to be looking dirty. He took pride, and that brought back some memory just by hearing you and the crew talking this afternoon. I had to mention that.
Thank you.
I hope we can somehow get back to that.
Oh man,
But I remember too that even us, I used to live in the Grove, and we used to Saturday morning while the girls scrubbing the floor with the turbot skin, what have you, way outside with the coconut tree, what the coconut comes on.
Yeah.
We used to use that to to rake the yard.
Sweep the dirt. Like I said before,
Fronds.
this time in Long Island, we used to sweep the dirt to keep
That's
that
right.
clean.
That's right.
I wish someone could remember that, because he reminded me what Martin Luther said. You know, if you're going to be a sweeper, a street sweeper, do it as if Michelangelo painted the Sistine Chapel.
Exactly.
And
I'll say to you, Mr. Darville, and the crew, that you're doing a great job. I only hope we can sensitize our people and we can get back to those traditions that we used to do. Because really, I mean, Grand Bahamas, Freeport is just as bad. Freeport is just dirty as Nassau these days.
Oh yeah, definitely, definitely.
So I hope we can do better. By you talking right now, I hope people can actually understand that we have a responsibility, all of us. So thanks for the time.
Okay, thanks for calling, Ken. God bless you, man. Keep you safe.
Okay.
I'd just like to chime in again, just to say, I don't know if somebody from Freeport Power is listening, but part of our initiative also is to see that we can get the street lights back up for safety in our community. It helps us because, sometimes a lot of things happen under the disguise of night. So if we can get our street lights back up in Coral Gardens, that we can see these buildings, we can see what's happening around this building, because again, it's not only the clean environment, but it's also about safety. So I'm sure that's what we're all trying to do. So again, we're appealing, if we can get the persons that are responsible for street lights to the part of our initiative and this action plan that we want to see straight through to the end. We're not going to stop. We're going to see this through the end, getting our lighting back up and getting that community back restored.
As a matter of fact, we were supposed to have had the CEO of the Grand Mountain Power Company on our program, but then his schedule got mixed up and he couldn't, but he is scheduled to come on sometime this month, and so we could address situations like that. I was bringing him on not to scold him, but actually to commend him and his team for doing a phenomenal job to get Grand Bahama back up, electrified after such a devastating hurricane, and then to ask about ongoing green power, how the Grand Bahama Power Company is moving into that direction. So you'll be hearing from him on this radio program sometimes in the very near future. All right. So, okay, go ahead. Any final? I think we still have. We still got 5 minutes, and we have 5 minutes. And even if I go over into 5, I don't mind, because my good friend Wendell, he has taken away my 5 to 6, but I like this 4 to 5, and so I will steal a couple minutes from him. Okay, go ahead, Linda.
Well, I'd really like to take this time to thank everyone who was a part of Champion this environmental cleanup on the 1st of April. It was a great spring break, a time to get our hands dirty and show our appreciation and love for stewardship. And we really have to deal with this man's relation to the land, man's relation to the animals, puppies that we find, and without being spayed and neutered, man's relation to the plants and everything which grows upon the land. And we have to stop creating these illegal dumping grounds. I'd like to thank everyone who championed this effort. Save the Bays organization, who continues to partner and bless us in the West and has always been our grandest supporter there in the West, as well as Andrew Cooper, Four Oceans, and Sam Boyd, who was our drone and cameraman, as well as Alex Schultz. And I really thank these guys from the bottom of my heart. I look forward to joining them in Eleuthera in June. We have an invite to go to clean up Eleuthera. We're also going to be spearheading some other cleaning initiatives in Abaco. So I really look forward to these partnerships, and I really, if you don't take anything out of this today, I just want you to take this home, and that is that we all are responsible for the use and the protection of our natural environment through conservation and sustainable practices. We need to get better at it, at our ethics. We need to morally, we need to take a responsibility towards cleaning up our islands. And I thank you so much. I thank the West End Primary School, the principal, Navidia Mills, for coming out that day, as well as Donald McKenzie. And there's so many people to thank. Rashima Ingram, I thank her with my whole heart for her passion about what she does. Nikira Wilchcomb and her passion with the Grand Bahama Clean Environmental Campaign, and everyone else who is a partner with me. Bishop Ricardo Major here. I've known him a very long time. We've gone back from Calvary Temple days, many moons ago, and I'm glad to see that you are really a part of this cleaning up initiative. I usually see you in the worship mode at church, but now sometimes we're called out of the worship mode, and now we are into cleaning up our environment. And it's good to see you in another realm. You're not principaling the school, and you're out doing this great initiative, and I know God's going to honor you and what you have done.
We got about 2 minutes left, Ricardo.
Well, just a special thanks to when we hosted our community cleanup. There was a resident that allowed us to put our tent up and our chairs in his yard, and that was Mr. and Miss Nesbitt. Just want to say a special thanks to them. The great people of Coral Gardens. We are on the move to cleaning up Coral Gardens for our community to be an example. Thank you.
And I want to thank all of the communities who are planning to take the initiative of the good example as Ricardo and his group in Coral Gardens and what took place in West End to begin to clean up this island. If we have a concerted effort, any visitors who come, I mean, we shouldn't clean it up for the visitors, No, clean it for ourselves. I hate to say, well, the visitors, they call us nasty because what they see. We are nasty if we keep it that way. I also want to thank the ladies for preparing the slam bam sandwiches for us.
Miss Gigi. That's Miss Gigi.
Oh, Miss Gigi, the quiet one in the studio this evening. She don't want to say a word. Well, you're the one who gave us all the energy. Thank you very much. What's her full name?
Gigi Salisbury.
Okay, Gigi. Thank you very, very kindly. And I want to thanks Avery for keeping us on and giving us the right number finally so that the gentleman could call in from Nassau. And Voice of the Bay's Environment Speaks, and we're going to be talking about this for a very long time. Every time a community does realize that we will make time on our program, Voice of the Bay's The Environment Speaks. The environment is everything, to make sure your message is carried alive and forcefully out to everybody. So thank you. Have a wonderful evening. Go out there and kiss Mother Earth, embrace her, and say, Mother Earth, I love you. You've given me life. The only difference was the Creator breathed the breath of the soul into your body, but Mother Earth gave you everything else, and we return to her. And when we return to her, she may not even allow the worms to eat you. So anyway, have a good evening, everyone. I love you. I love our beautiful country, and keep it safe, beautiful, and pristine.
Rise up, Bahamas, and let your voices blaze.
Bahamas, your Save the Bays team is live on air once a week to give you your environmental update on your country, our beautiful Bahama land. Join us on Voice of the Bays radio show each Wednesday on Love 97 from 5 to 6 p.m. to hear the latest news on our 700 islands in the sun. Call in and let your voice be heard during the show. Calling from Nassau, dial 326-8255. Calling in from Freeport, use 351-6175. You can also listen to the show streaming online.
Listen, someone called and gave us the name of the gentleman who kept Bay Street clean, who wear a bow tie. He was honored to clean the environment in Bay Street. His name was Mr. Carroll. He probably was from Long Island too, because we believe in keeping our stuff clean. Okay, thanks, Avery.